Welcome back to An American Homestead, podcasting live from deep within the Ozark Mountains at an elevation of 2,200 feet. It's 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central, and it's good to be back. With me, as always, is the lovely Jamie, covering her ears as I shout into the microphone. It's late. It's the late show on the Homestead Network. Got a huge stack of stuff tonight to go over. You're going to enjoy the show. Lots of great topics to cover. And folks, if you're interested in more shows like this, more homesteading venues, you can go to thehomesteadnetwork.com, go to the show times, and see all of the amazing homestead channels on YouTube that are doing these podcasts. And you can check out their channels and join in with them each week, just like you're joining in with us. So appreciate you guys all being here. If you like listening to these podcasts, you can do that by going to your favorite browser and searching for YouTube MP3 downloader. And that way, I know a lot of people have emailed us and say, hey, we like to listen to you guys in the car. Is there a way we can do that? Well, we're not on iTunes. We're not on some of these other podcasting networks. But what you can do is just go to your favorite browser and search for YouTube MP3 downloaders, and they will convert these video files into an MP3 that you can listen to, take with you on your favorite MP3 player, or listen in your car or while you're exercising, wherever that you want to listen to it. So anyway, thanks for being here. Got a pretty cool stack of things we want to tackle today, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this show. We're going to talk about, what's one of the first things you can do before you leave the city. We've mentioned this numerous times on our channel. We've talked about, one of the top things you need to do before you make that jump off into the homesteading realm. And so we'll get into some more details tonight. But first, let's see, what did we do this week? I fixed that. I mentioned last week we needed to fix the Toyota, and we had a guy come out who's a mechanic, and he worked on putting some new seals in the motor, took some things apart, put in some new gaskets and stuff like that. So got all that back going, and put in some new. I went out and bought some new spark plug wires because they were not looking good at all. And sure enough, as always, it seems like when you buy spark plug wires for a vehicle, one of them does not fit. So it was the one, the center one on the distributor cap didn't fit. It wasn't long enough, about 3 inches too short. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do about that. So I just put the rest of them on there. It's still running great. Did a heck of a job at getting that Toyota. The Toyota, we call it the Yoda, the Toyota. It's our little farm truck. It never really leaves the farm. It's just our workhorse around here that, when we need to move stuff or haul stuff or pull something, real easy. It's a 4x4 truck. And it's a Toyota Hilux. The Toyota Hilux, those engines last forever. And the Toyota Hilux, if you didn't know, all European Hiluxes and American pickups were the same thing. I don't think they changed until after like 1984. So anything at pre-1984, I think it's 85, is the Hilux. Those engines will last forever. They're just a great little pickup. Let's see. I was working on the garden this week. What'd you do this week? Don't look at the notes.
You always ask me.
I was working on the garden this week. I put down lots more straw, and I'm getting that ready to go. Got some, some cabbages coming up. Got the cabbages going, and the garden's coming along. It's really early this year. Things are happening a lot earlier than normal. It's just really warm. What else did you do this week?
I just do the same things every week.
Like you're, teaching the kids and dishes and laundry.
Pretty much.
It's an exciting week for her too, folks. I don't have all the excitement. Let's see. I found a really cool link this week, and our kids have been playing with this. And I think, we shared it with the patrons earlier this week. The patrons seem to have gotten a lot out of it. They enjoyed it. And I think you will too. So we discovered the Oregon Trail online. Now, I grew up, I was born in 1976. I grew up in the 1980s. And usually the elementary school that I grew up, I went to public school to begin with, elementary school. And they had the Oregon Trail in the library. And on some lucky occasions, we were able to play the Oregon Trail, as a child. I got to play that game, and I enjoyed it. I never got to play it enough because, it was before the age of computers being in your house and game consoles and all of that stuff, and laptops and all that. So if you used a computer, you used it while you were at school. So I brought home or found the link, and my kids have been playing it, and we've been having a pretty fun time playing the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's funny. Josh was getting really into it.
Yeah, he really, for a kid, listen, a kid today getting into a game with the graphics of a 1980s, late 1970s video game is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's funny.
Our kids are not, we kind of limit them for a reason on some. My kid learns, he's got his own laptop that we monitor, obviously, and then he does a lot of computer stuff too that we tell him to do, things we have him focus on, but he's really getting a kick out of a late 1970s video game called the Oregon Trail. Folks, if you want to play this game, I've included the link in the description below. You can go there and play the original Oregon Trail 1970s, early 80s video game. We played the game, and we did beat the game. I played as the carpenter. The hardest level is to play as the farmer. If you play as the banker, you're basically cheating because they're giving you tons of money. But I played as the carpenter, and we won, but it's really hard to win the game and play as a farmer. But if you're interested, you can go check it out. Play it with your kids. Folks, if you have kids, show them this game. If you remember this game, show them this game and show them what it was like. Two things they're going to get out of playing this game. They're going to see what it was like to play a game back in the early days of computers. Okay? And they're going to have to actually read text on the screen. Okay? Yeah. And then the second thing they're going to get out of this is a history lesson. They're going to get a history lesson of what it was like, what it was truly like to ride the Oregon Trail back in the 1800s.
Yeah, because you could say it's probably the first homesteading game, right?
Absolutely.
Like before Farmville.
Oh, yes. Yes, the Farmville. The Facebook Farmville.
So the quintessential homesteading game
is the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you can play it because I'm giving you the link where you can play this online and enjoy it. And you guys, seriously, play it with your kids. Let us know next week in the comments how your kids liked it and whether or not they were okay with playing with them. I think most kids today, if you're used to, whatever Sony PlayStation or whatever Xbox you have today, the Nintendo Wii, is going to look at this game and go, what is this? This is not, I'm not playing this.
I thought the most hilarious thing was that Joshua was getting so excited over killing a deer in the game. And he's jumping up and down. He's so excited. I said, you're more excited about the game than killing a deer in real life.
Yeah. So, and just to throw this out there too, we play it extra hard because we keep it kosher. So I don't let them kill the bear and the bears and the squirrels and the rabbits in the game. He's got to kill the deer or the buffalo. So I'm limiting about half of his food supply that he can harvest. So anyway, so the Oregon Trail video game. I'm sure you guys will enjoy that. Have fun with that. Let us know how it works out for you and your family. Let's see here. Back to my notes here.
Well, the coffee thing was kind of along with that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about coffee history because go ahead and tell us.
Okay, so I'm writing a lot, and I am really into researching the history of simple things. I was never into history as a kid, and I always just was bored, and I just took the test, and that was it. But I think it's really interesting to research the history of things, just normal things, like normal everyday life things. And I'm a coffee drinker. I love my coffee. And we're a united household in this. Zach loves coffee too. So, and he even made me my coffee this morning. That was really nice.
Points.
I know. Anyway, okay, so the history of coffee. I thought it was really interesting that America did not drink coffee until the late 18th century, so the late 1700s. And the reason they started, I don't know, should we have people guess the reason that Americans started drinking coffee?
Oh, we can go back to the chat room and see if people can guess, but we usually don't hit the chat room until the end of the show.
Well, I'll just tell you. The reason people started drinking coffee is because of the Boston Tea Party, when all of the tea was thrown into the harbor. And people didn't start drinking coffee until after that, because previously they had been tea drinkers. The tea had been brought from England.
From the Brits.
And they had been drinking tea, but when they started, the revolution was about to happen, and so they started drinking coffee as a way to stick it to the man, to show that they were patriotic.
You don't need your stinking tea.
Right. We're drinking a product that's grown in the New World. Well, it was really grown in the Caribbean, and it was brought from the Caribbean to America. But so I said, you know what though? Like, that really makes coffee American, right?
Right.
American. And then I started to research how speaking of the Oregon Trail, the frontier people who settled the West, what did they bring along? What was deemed necessary to bring along? I mean, this is people that had to choose, like make hard choices of what to bring along. And they brought coffee. So I am saying coffee is the American homesteader's drink.
Yeah. But it's true though. I mean, that if you think about it, when you go on a trip like that, you weigh out what you're going to bring. I mean, that's a big deal. I remember when we used to go backpacking and things like that, and we would. I mean, the ounces turn into pounds, right? So you always make sure what's in the back of your pack. You make sure what you need is essential. And they're taking coffee, they're deeming it essential, even though it doesn't grow here, it's imported. They saw it as that important. Maybe they were just that addicted to it. I don't know, but.
Well, I was going to read something that I found about the Oregon Trail.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so. Most immigrants agreed with Anna Maria King, who said, "Fetch what coffee, sugar, and such things you like. If you should be sick, you will need them." By the time they were nearing either Oregon or California, coffee was sometimes all that was left. Leslie Scott, an Oregon pioneer, remorsefully recalled those times. "We still had coffee, and we made a huge pot of this fragrant beverage. We gathered around the crackling campfire, our last in the Cascade Mountains, and sipping the nectar from rusty cups and eating salal berries gathered that day. We pitied the folks who had no coffee." Before making a cup of coffee, the green coffee beans had to be roasted in a skillet and then ground, and it was not until after the Civil War that manufacturers devised a good way of preserving the flavor in pre-roasted or ground coffee. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. A little bit of history. So I think it was season 3, episode 6. We interviewed Lyndon and Charlotte, and if you noticed, a lot of people noticed, obviously, that Charlotte had a British accent, and the people we purchased the milk cow from, she also had a British accent. They all live on the same road. There is a group of people who live they're all, some of them are related, some of them are not, but there's a group of people who live nearby, about 45 minutes away.
They came from the same place in England.
Yeah, did they? Yeah. And so I call that road Limey Lane, because Limeys is just a way to refer to people in England. And so, but they all are tea drinkers. You go over there and they have tea. And one of the reasons I like going over there and helping out on their homestead, sometimes they'll have work days here and there. And they have tea breaks and snack breaks, and they're always doing tea. It's tea, But, the Americans, they want coffee, so they make coffee too. But they're big on their tea. And anyway, they gave me a tea that I do enjoy. It's called Lapsang. It's a smoked tea that's smoked with pine needles. So pretty cool. It tastes really good. I think it tastes pretty good. It's kind of strong, but it like I said, I think it tastes okay. But yeah, it's kind of a thing over there. But the British are still on their tea, and the Americans are all about their coffee. So anyway, cool bit of history. We love our coffee here on our homestead. Anything else on that?
No, that's about it.
This week, also, I'm going down through the list. It was, now get this, folks. It is the 4th of March. The 4th of March. And things, all things being equal, but today things are not all equal. We are way ahead of schedule when it comes to growing season this year. Now, it was reported last week. It was reported, my friends, that the first morel mushroom was found in McDonald County, Missouri. In Missouri, a man went out and he found a morel mushroom last week in McDonald County. That's the county that's just north of, I think it's Benton County in northwest Arkansas. Okay, it's on the Arkansas-Missouri border, McDonald County. Last week, found the first morel mushroom. That is way early. Now, normally where I'm from, up in St. Louis, in the St. Louis area, you go out about April 14th to look for mushrooms. That's the middle of April. That's when you hit it. It always seems like that's the weekend, or that's the time frame you hit it, and you go out and start looking. We are way early, and that's usually been the case around here too. Is middle of April, maybe a little bit early April, but middle of April is the time you get out there and start looking. Well, I did find another report that was last week, and I looked on Friday. No reports of any found in Arkansas, but I looked again this evening, and a lady near Mountain Home in Baxter County, Arkansas, found several small morels yesterday. Now, that was reported on the 3rd, so that happened on the 2nd. On March 2nd, Mountain Home, Baxter County, Arkansas, a lady found several morel mushrooms. We are way, way early. So things are just not equal this year. It's going to be an interesting growing season to see what all happens. And there's another person who reported, this is all being reported over at morels.com. Morels.com is the link. You can find the forums there and people in the different states talking about what's been found and what's being reported. We are way early. So there's been a number of people now in Arkansas since that was reported on March 3rd of the lady in Mountain Home finding them on March 2nd. There's been a number of other people who have found their morels. So I went out there to our honey hole this week, Friday afternoon, and I was looking around and I didn't see any. But we got some rain coming in. It's going to be humid, so I think there's a good chance we might get some this next week. We're going to be out there looking for them. But we really like our morels. I mean, Jamie likes them. I like them. You can't. It's illegal in this state actually to find a bunch of them and take them to the farmer's market. You can't do that. That's one of the backwards things about the state we live in. One of the few backwards things. But they limit a lot of the farmer's market things you can do here. But we are looking forward to morel season. I kind of let it go last year because last year was a funny season too. But I think we're going to be early this year. I think we got a bunch of rain coming, so I think we're going to get a good spout of morel mushrooms. Let's see what else. Oh, so speaking of deer in the garden, I think it was mentioned on Deep South's channel, ways to keep deer out of the garden or animals out of the garden. And so I've planted, we have cabbage coming up right now. And when I have cabbage or when I have those first, brassicas and plants coming up in the garden, I really get worried because the deer come in and they will just eat anything. And so what's worked for me in the past, and a lot of people have asked me, is, Zach, what do you do for keeping animals and deer out of the garden? I use NPR radio. So go out, find an FM radio, AM, FM radio, put it on NPR, and put it in your garden. Put it under a shelter or something so it doesn't get rained on. But put it in your garden. And NPR does an excellent job of getting deer out of your garden. Why NPR? Because if you put a country station on, or I'm being serious, folks, totally serious. You put like an 80s rock station, the deer eventually get wise to that, and they get used to the music, or they get used to what's being talked about. But see, NPR is so varied in its programming. You never get that. You get symphony music in the morning, you get, folk music at night, you get talk radio oftentimes throughout during the day, or oftentimes mixed throughout all of the programming that they do. And so you never have a constant stream of one thing or another. It's always being changed up. And the deer never get used to it. And it works great. The other thing we've done that works pretty good is put white Walmart, the white plastic bags that Walmart gives you. We'll put those out in the garden on the tree, on the post, or the garden post and the fence post in the garden. And the little wind blowing those light bags around, the deer don't like it. They don't like the crinkling sound that white plastic makes when the wind blows it. And the white is always a symbol of deer when danger is there, because white-tailed deer, when they get scared off, they flip their tail up white so the other deer can see, and they're running. And so they don't like white flipping around like that. It makes them nervous, and they don't like the noise it makes. So that also works very well, has worked very well for us in the past. We've been doing this now for a few years, and people ask us what works. That is what works. So that should help with the deer in the garden thing. But the NPR radio, I'm telling you, that works really good. So what is it that can help you leave the city? This is going to help you leave the city. And we've talked about this before. One of the first things, because, all right, let's just imagine this. You're living in suburbia, and you are, somebody in the chat room said, NPR, you might get your radio shot.
When we were first married, when we first met, before we were married, I told Zach that I listened to NPR, and he still married me. But I got a lesson in how I should be listening to Fox News and not NPR.
Anyway, so NPR, it may turn all of the deer into liberals, but you have to shoot them later, so it's okay. But no, it's okay. I mean, NPR, I know it's programming. I listen to it. I'm in the garden and I'm listening to NPR. And I'm just have to pull my hair out sometimes, but it does do an excellent job of keeping the deer out. Every once in a while, they do those fundraiser drives for NPR to keep them on the air because they're publicly funded, and they work on donations. I almost want to send them a donation and say, hey, listen, I don't listen to you guys, but you definitely keep the deer out of my garden. So thank you. I've never done that yet. Anyway, so this will help you leave the city. So imagine this: you're living in American suburbia. You're living in the city, and I get a lot of emails. I get a lot of emails. It seems like I was just thinking about this today. I get a lot of emails from people who are in the military, and they're either getting ready to end their enlistment or they're getting ready to retire out of the military in their career, and they want a homestead. The husband and wife want a homestead. They want to move out to a homestead, and they're beginning to make that jump. Well, in the military, it's kind of easy already, because a lot of times in the military, you're moving around every 3 to 5 years or so. And you just don't have the ability to accumulate a lot of stuff, because being in the military a lot of times keeps you mobile. Sometimes you do, sure. I mean, anyone can acquire things. But a lot of times for being in the military and running from duty station to duty station or post to post or whatever, you were forced to basically downsize every time you move. So that in mind, the number one thing that's going to help you leave the city is to downsize, to minimalize.
I wouldn't say the number one thing.
That's the first thing we started doing.
No.
When we decided to make the jump.
But getting out of debt, I think, is more important.
Getting out of debt is a big thing. But to actually make the move is to make it practical. Because a lot of people, what they do is they sit around and they look at all of their stuff and they're like, there's no way. I can't move all this stuff. Do you know how much of an effort, manpower hours it would take to move all of my stuff?
It's hard to move.
It is hard to move.
Especially when you've accumulated over the years.
Yeah, you've been living in one spot. Let's just say you're in the suburbs, and you've been living there for 20 years, and you've got all the materialism that living in the suburbs generates over 20 years. My goodness. You look at that and you're like, there's no way I'll ever move. I'll die here in this house.
Yeah. And then, people keep building bigger and moving bigger, and they just move all their stuff with them to a bigger house.
Right. They get a bigger house just to put all their stuff.
Because they need more room for their stuff.
So
we're big on letting go of stuff here.
Yes. So we've had a rule since we've been married, and we've mostly stuck to this rule. You want to tell them what the rule is?
The rule is that if we don't use it in 6 months and it's not seasonal, then it goes.
We get rid of it.
Yes, it's out.
If we haven't used it in 6 months, it's not seasonal, then we get rid of it.
The thing that has really been hard for me, because I have always been good about moving stuff on out, like really good at it. I get delight from it even. But the thing that has really stretched me is the seasonal homesteading items. There is a lot of homesteading necessary equipment that we've accumulated that I don't really know where to put. That's really been hard for me.
Yeah, we've acquired more equipment, but things we're definitely using.
But as everyday life stuff goes, we have always been good about getting rid of stuff. We actually do not have a lot of personal things, I would say. Most of our stuff is homestead.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have a lot of knickknacks, laying around, mementos.
What knickknacks I do mean something to me, and they're on display.
Right.
There's a really cool website that I follow called The Inspired Room. And one of her sayings is every day on display. If you use it and you're using it every day, put it on display, because then you get to look at it and it's beautiful and you're using it. So it does double duty. But back to the getting rid of stuff. So what did we do?
We got rid of stuff.
Every week I would go through stuff in our house and I would pack it up and I would put it in the minivan, and Zach would take it to the Goodwill drop off on his way to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I would take it too if I was shopping or something like that. We would put it in and the little nice man at the Goodwill, they had a big tractor, no, what was it? The semi.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a big semi that would sit in the parking lot of a grocery store, and so I would pull in, and he always unloaded my stuff for me.
Yeah.
That was like every week. He must have thought that I was nuts.
Yeah.
But I had so much stuff to get rid of, just tons and tons.
But getting rid of all that stuff too can also mean, because you say debt is really the number one thing to help you get out of the city, make that jump into the homesteading realm, buy some land, have that ability. Getting out of debt obviously is number one, and so many people struggle with that. But when you look around at all of your stuff and realize that you can open up an eBay account and put all of that stuff online, sell it little by little, even though it takes time. There's
a lot of stuff.
There's so many ways, things you can sell online. People will pay for, what you think is trash or junk. Somebody else will take it and buy it. And, one of the things I think is so hard for people is that they look at something like, oh, one day I'm going to do something with that.
It's hard
and
when
they never
you live.
do.
I think the thing too is that for people like us who are prepper oriented homesteaders, it's like, it could have a use. Like, you're holding on to it for dear life because you think that you're going to find a use for it. Unfortunately, that's a dead-end road for so many things that you just never do.
It's a pile of cash sitting there. Whether it's a pile of cash that's $5 or whether it's a pile of cash that's $5,000, it's sitting there, and you could be using that to pay off your debt.
Or it's just a pile of stuff that you have to find a place for, or that's draining to you every time you look at it.
Yeah.
That's me.
It would be better to throw it away, rather than it be a drain on you, on your emotions. So,
I get drained looking at piles of stuff.
So, what we suggest is the thing that will help you leave the city or help you leave the suburbs is to go through and just get rid of stuff. Come to the realization, come to the place where you say, you know what, I'm just not going to ever do anything with this. I need to get rid of it. Go by a rule like the rule we have. If I haven't used it in 6 months, it's not seasonal. I'm not using it. I haven't used it in 6 months. Get rid of it. It's gone.
But there are things that you don't technically use, but that inspire you. And we each have those items too. And those are the things that I've displayed.
Like what?
The thing that comes to my mind most often is my teacups.
Okay, but that's like an heirloom that's passed from your grandma.
Right, and it has memories attached to it, and
It is
it
displayed.
inspired me. Yeah, but I'm saying if you have something like that, don't put it in a box somewhere. If you're going to put it in a box somewhere,
Right,
you may as
so
well not have
Let me
it.
clarify this by saying, okay, if it hasn't been used in 6 months, it's sitting in a box.
Yeah.
And it's not being used seasonal, then get rid of it. I mean, or sell it. There's just all kinds of things. You know, we've all had those things in our basements. I know people, you know, that's why that show is so popular today, Hoarders or whatever it was, that where people had just houses full of junk.
Oh, that show freaked me out.
Yeah, we used to watch that. She used to watch that back when we were living in.
Yeah, and then I would get up and clean. Because I couldn't handle it. Oh, I would get up and clean and make the house spotless.
Right. So, I mean, this is something that really you have to do. I mean, we spent so much time in the basement and, you know, decluttering and getting rid of stuff, getting rid of golf clubs. And, I mean, I hadn't gone golfing really hardly ever. And I used it. So, just things like that. And I could sell this stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, I had kept my wedding dress.
we had...
and people thought I was crazy that I took my wedding dress to the Goodwill rather than hold on to it.
I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do? Are you going to wear it again?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, chances of us having... Even if we had a daughter, the chances of her wearing that dress... I mean, girls are particular.
And where in the world would I put it in the meantime?
Yeah. It's just room takes up space.
Yeah, everything takes up space. But I think getting to this article that we were going to talk about, this article I really liked it because there's a lot of talk about getting rid of stuff. I mean, that's obvious. There's so many websites out there to help you figure out how to declutter, which to me in itself, the fact that we have this problem is a huge commentary on our commercial society. And I think that as homesteaders, our desire should be to increasingly reduce our dependence on commercialism in whatever way we can. I think we work towards that as homesteaders. None of us will ever be completely self-sufficient. That's impossible. Like we had talked about with the coffee, even the Oregon Trail pioneers were not completely self-sufficient. They wanted their coffee.
They wanted their coffee.
And they were willing to pay for it and pack it up and take it on their journey.
That's right.
We will never be completely self-sufficient. However, a part of our goal as homesteaders should be and is to work toward being more and more independent of the commercial system. So by having all of this stuff around you, it's really counterproductive because we're saying that all of this stuff is important that we have purchased from that same commercial system that we're trying to get away from. And so I think that your mindset is really important when you're getting rid of this stuff to say, why am I getting rid of this stuff? Because I'm trying to create a new way of life. Like I'm trying to make room in my life to be able to have that homesteading vision.
Right, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Totally sense. I mean, we've done it. But people have asked us, you know, Zach, what's the number one thing I need to do? Well, get out of debt. Okay, yeah. But you got to get rid of your stuff.
Yeah, because if you just get rid of stuff without changing your mindset, you're going to keep bringing more stuff in, which is really counterproductive to homesteading because your goal as a homesteader should be to produce your own stuff.
I see it still as a I remember when I was a kid, I see it as a destroyer of motivation.
Yeah, and it's a distraction.
So when I was a kid, my mom would tell me to clean my room. Zach, I need to clean your room. And we're familiar with this because we always tell Joshua and Caleb to clean the room.
Yeah.
Well, I would look at my room, this gigantic mess, 2-3 inches of, you know, stuff all over the floor. You can't see the floor. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's no way. I can't clean this room. It would take me a year. And there's no way I could figure out where everything goes. And I would just not be motivated at all to clean my room because there was no way I don't know where to begin. Well, a lot of people, I think, are that way with their homes. You know, they want to live a different lifestyle. They want to live off grid. They want to, move out to the rural America somewhere and buy some land, but they look at all their stuff and they're like, dude, do you know how much work it's going to be to get rid of all this, to move all this? And it's a motivation killer, and they don't do anything. So my number one advice I tell people, I say, listen, go to eBay, go to Craigslist, open up an account, start selling stuff. Go to Goodwill, find the nearest Goodwill, start dropping stuff off, get to know those guys. Find a church near your area that will take clothing donations or, toy donations or whatever you got, and get rid of stuff. It'd be great if you could sell it and make some money. That way you can work on your debt at the same time. Sometimes some of you guys got gold mines, I'm not kidding you, inside of your basements and in your garages. People, old auto projects that you never got off the ground, got fixed, that somebody would pay a lot of money for if you got it in front of the right person. That's where Craigslist and eBay comes in. But you got to get motivated and do that. And when the checks start coming in and when the money starts coming into the bank, that's your motivation right there. But to keep you going. But I just think of me as a little kid and looking at that room and going, oh, I can't begin to clean this room.
I like to think about the kids and relate them to us because, we're just basically grown-up kids. And the kids, they can't see what they want to do because they have so much stuff in front of them. Like they can't see a toy that would really spark their interest to play with or an activity or whatever because they have so much stuff to choose from. I think we're the same way.
Yeah.
Like we can't focus on a task or our motivation when we have so many choices in front of us. So I think that getting rid of the things that do not inspire you and motivate you automatically limits your choices so that you can see better to figure out what it is you really want to do.
You want to share this article?
Yeah.
All right, so we have an article. It's listed in the description below. You can check it out. It's called Nourishing Minimalism.
Nourishing Minimalism.
Millennialism.
Nourishing Minimalism. So let me just preface to say that I don't consider myself to be a minimalist. Like I said, I'm not sure that homesteaders who have homesteading equipment can be, by the definition, minimalists. There's the guys who travel around with only a backpack full of stuff, and that's literally all that they own.
That's called being a homeless.
Yeah. So they're by definition like the epitome of minimalism. So I wouldn't consider ourselves that. And plus, we are preppers. And so that doesn't encourage minimalism. However, I think that just trying to limit the stuff that you bring in, commercial items that you bring in just for the sake of it, like making good choices about what you really purchase, is what we try to do. So did you want me to read this?
The parts in there you said that were pretty good. So it's all about decluttering, and it's just really about is it a vision or is it an idea?
Decluttering is a means to an end. So I'll just read a few parts. When decluttering becomes the focus rather than just a venue for lifestyle change, it needs to be addressed. The only way I know this is an issue for you is to spend some time in introspection and ask yourself some questions. Do you find yourself longing to declutter just for the thrill of it without necessarily having an empty space or an end goal? When you think about decluttering, what is the end goal that you envision? Have you implemented daily routines to keep your home tidy or don't see the point of routines? Have you noticed a shift in shopping habits, or do you not consider yourself or consider your consumer mindset as a contributing factor to the clutter? The point is, don't just declutter for the sake of decluttering, because then you've missed the point completely. The decluttering is a means to an end. It's a means to be able to help you live the life that you want to live. And I would say that life, if you're listening to us, a homesteading life, because a homesteading life provides you the motivation and the wonder-driven activities like getting out there and seeing the birth of an animal, or, eating your first tomato from the garden. Those kind of activities, letting go of stuff helps you get to the place where you can live the life that you want to live. And I think that is basically, that's what this article is about.
Yeah, it's a great article. Check it out. Link in the description below. We got about 5 minutes left before we hit over to the chat room. Other articles we have here tonight. Spent a lot of time on this, but some pretty cool articles. And I try to share some different blogs every week. There's some really small blogs out there sometimes that don't get a time of day, but then also there's some that always get lots of hits. Off the Grid News is one that we all know, and it's got some good news stuff on there. But they also have this time of year, especially when it's garden time, when everyone's getting ready for the gardens, some really good articles. So they have 6 ways to maximize your raised bed garden this year. I thought was pretty good. So check that out. 6 ways to maximize your raised bed garden this year. I don't have a lot of raised beds. I have a couple. I don't put a lot of emphasis on raised beds here on the homestead. What I do put an emphasis on is lasagna layering of the garden, back to Eden style type garden, where I'm using lots of different compostable materials and layering them on the ground, and that keeps the ground really supple and just it's very easy to work and plant, and the ground doesn't get hard by doing that. In fact, it stays very soft, and you can do a lot with that kind of soil. And so, but 6 ways to maximize your raised bed garden this year. Pretty good article. Check that out. And then also, how to keep your chickens legal and safe in the big city. This is something we've talked about, off and on our channel, especially on the Homestead Outlaws video that we did. Zoning laws, neighborhood predators. Just because you live, out in the country, or even say you live in the suburbs, doesn't mean your chickens are going to be safe. I have seen, actually, since moving out here, I have seen more coyotes living in the suburbs than I have living out here yet. So there are lots of coyotes, and plus you have domestic, predators for your flock in the suburbs. So that's an important danger for them. You have free range issues, free range dangers, poisonous plants that you have to keep. They're plants that are poisonous to chickens, so you have to watch out for those. Anyway, so check that out. Good article on chickens and how to stay legal and have a good flock in suburbia. I mean, because I know a lot of you guys live in suburbia or live in the city, and you want to have chickens, and you ask how do you do it, or how can you do it? I know there's a lot of laws out there that are trying to prevent you from doing it, but a lot of cities are becoming more and more friendly to small livestock owners, because there's a demand for it. And here's the deal. Here's the bottom line. These cities are run by politicians, and the number one job of a politician is to get reelected. And so if they can win your vote by letting you have a couple chickens and keeping you happy, okay. And, they'll give you some rules, no roosters, things like that. But if they can keep you happy and give, some people farm fresh eggs while living in the city, allow you to have a small chicken flock, they'll let you do it. So, good article on that. Check it out. It's over at offgridnews.com. Link in the description below. So we're going to head on over to, with like 2 minutes to spare, head on over to the chat room. Guys, if you have a question for us, please put it in all capital letters, and we will look for it and try to find it. And if for some reason we miss the question, we will try to get back to it and answer it. So just keep posting your questions until we get to it. We'll try to get to it. Moderators are on full guard here and tonight, and they will bounce any trolls that happen to show up. So good on the moderators. But yeah, definitely post your questions, and we'll get to them. So how well do chickens deal with dogs barking? Well, our neighbor has lots of chickens, and she has 7 dogs, and they do okay. They all run together, actually, the dogs and the chickens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's okay. The dogs deal with dogs barking. That's fine. But our neighbor has got 7 dogs, and her chickens and her dogs all run together. And obviously, if a dog, because she's had before in the past, dogs start to eat the chickens or kill a chicken, the dog immediately, gets a lead poisoning.
Yeah.
Let's see. Please remember to put all comments. Okay, so thanks, Mr. Rain. Deep South Homestead said it takes equipment to raise a lot of food. Yes, that's true. It does take equipment. Tractors is equipment. Brush hogs, all that stuff takes. I mean, all that stuff is equipment we have to have a flourishing homestead. Zach and Jamie, have you seen Joel Salatin's mobile chicken coops? I've seen it. I don't know if Jamie's seen it.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I think those are cool. I don't know. If I had the big open spaces, I could do that, I think. I don't have those spaces right now where I can do that, but I just like to let our chickens free range. They can go wherever they want, and they know where home is at night. They go back in the coop. So I don't really see the big deal with the mobile chicken coops because they still have to give them feed. Joe Salatin still gives them a little bit of feed every day, even though they eat the grasses and things. I don't see what the big difference is other than that it requires more work for me to move the chicken coop every day or every day or 2 days or whatever it is. But I've seen what Joe Salatin does there, and it's cool, but I'm just... And I think Justin Rhodes does the same thing. I'm okay with it, but I'll stick with the chicken coop and let them free range around the homestead. Because here's the deal: where we live, I like the chickens roaming around with the guineas. We have copperheads and we have rattlesnakes, and I guarantee you, those chickens and those guineas, when they patrol the homestead, they keep the rattlesnakes and copperheads away because those snakes do not like chickens and guineas. No.
We have a rule that in the summer, our kids are only allowed to go where the chickens go.
Right.
If they see chickens there or have seen chickens there that day, then yes, you can go there.
Yeah, you can go where the chickens go. That's the rule. Because the snakes do not like the chickens. And I'll give you another benefit too. And I have noticed this. Since I moved out to this homestead, I live in the middle of the woods, okay, in the middle of nowhere. I have seen less spiders, less insects in this house than I have ever seen in the city. Ever. And I think that's because that every day, constantly, we have chickens walking around this house eating every insect in sight. They are constantly eating every bug around this house. There's very few insects that get in this house. The one exception is the ladybugs. We do get ladybugs that come in here on the windows. But added benefit of having free range chickens around your home and around your homestead is they will keep the bugs out of your house because any creepy crawly it's like a barrier. They're not getting through that barrier. That chicken will see them and they will eat them. What pets do you have? How do you feed them? We have a cat, Puma.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Puma, and let's see.
How do we feed her?
She gets a lot of leftovers. We do buy some cat feed.
Yeah, we buy some cat food.
But she gets a lot of leftovers. Like the other day, we gave her some chicken.
Yeah, if I ever have anything for her, I'll give it to her.
Yeah. But that's the only pet we have, really. We don't want a dog. Dogs, like I said, my neighbor has 7 dogs, and I don't want to add to that mess because they'll travel. And one of my other neighbors has a dog. It's just there's too many dogs in my area. I don't want any dogs. But we have a cat. That's it. Where is Puma anyway?
I don't know.
I haven't seen her.
Well, we had company today, so she didn't come in the house.
Okay. How do you feel about Dexter's mini cows, Zach? Please put all your questions in all caps so I can see them. We have a mini cow. So once D3ADP001 wants to know, how do you feel about Dexter's or mini cows? We have a mini Jersey. It's a true mini Jersey. And so I'm all about the mini cows for a family. I think it's great for a family. We got a really good price on that cow, and we're looking forward to... We'll be doing some more videos on her shortly, so you'll get to see more of her. Her name is Truffle. Is duck something you can eat? Have you considered it if you can? Well, we're kind of a divided homestead on that. I think it's okay to eat. I don't like duck. I don't think duck tastes good. We had a friend of ours who was a duck hunter a couple years back, and he gave us some duck breast, and we took them home and cooked them up, and we just didn't like them. Mm-mm. I just don't like duck. So, but Tim doesn't eat duck. He doesn't like duck. He doesn't think it's clean also. So, but we're not big duck fans here. But if I did have a vineyard, I've seen a lot of vineyards, wineries. They put ducks in their wineries and vineyards, and they're great about getting slugs out of your garden. I may eventually one day get ducks just for that purpose because I've heard they do such a great job. Let's see. How much do you supplement the cats with feed in order to keep them mousing? Not a lot. And she's killed a couple things we've seen for sure. She has a few confirmed kills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
Here's my personal opinion, and we've only had a few cats to back this up, but I just think that if they have a taste for the mice, they're going to go after them.
Right.
And I'm really not sure how much starving of your cat is going to make her or him go out and get a mouse if she doesn't already have a taste for it or doesn't want to do it. She's just going to bug you and bug you and bug you and yell at you until you feed her.
Peoria Dude says cats and dogs will eat duck. It may be true. I'm sure that's true. Our neighbor, again, the woman with the 7 dogs who run with the chickens, they're all in one big pack. I mean, the chickens all and the dogs all stay together. They also had ducks too, and the dogs don't bother their ducks either. So I think there was one dog. Again, if a dog attacks a chicken or a duck, it gets lead poisoning. So they don't have to worry about that. But they've got lots of ducks and chickens and dogs all running together, and they don't have any problems. Have you seen the bandsaw type sawmills? If so, thoughts? Yes. So when I first started looking at sawmills, I wanted to get a bandsaw. I thought about getting a bandsaw because they were cheap, and we had a guy who actually, the son of the owner who owned the property before us, was offered to build us one. And I started asking around, and I met a couple of guys who've been doing this their whole life. And he said, no. You want to use a bell saw, one of the, big blade saws. And he gave me a lot of the reasons why, the advantages and disadvantages of having that. And I decided not to do a bell saw or a bandsaw. So we went with a regular sawmill with just a big, 44-inch blade with teeth. Now they make them different sizes. There's a guy down the road who's got one that's like a 52-inch blade or a 54-inch blade, but some big ones. But yeah, those band saws, a lot of times the bands break, and the bands are expensive when you keep replacing them. You gotta have them sharp; they're hard to sharpen. It's just a lot of issues. Whereas this thing, I really like the sawmill that I've got. Let's see. Someone asked before: is Massachusetts too cold for a homestead?
Well, they homesteaded there in 1630s with the Plymouth colony.
The Pilgrims. And one of our ancestors, your ancestors, was part of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my ancestors came over to Plymouth in the 1630s.
What was his name?
John Carey.
John Carey.
So they did it back then.
Not the John Carey who was in Vietnam.
No.
That's funny.
I think that it depends on your definition of what you want for your homestead, whether you want to be off-grid or what your idea of off-grid would be. I mean, there's a million different things. It just depends on what it is you want to do and how you want to get there. Massachusetts, to me, would be really cold. I don't know if you all know, but when we first moved to our homestead, we lived in a trailer. And we went through a winter without a good source of heat, and it was cold. So we've been reading about Plymouth in our homeschool lessons. And in Massachusetts, when they were first building their homes, they did not have glass to put in their windows. So what they did was soak cloth in wax and like animal fat, things like that, to stiffen it. But it wasn't sealed tight. I mean, they had some really cold dwellings in the winter. And the light, I think, the other thing that people don't consider when they move off grid is how dark the winters are without electric light. And the further north you go, the less light you're going to have during the days. And it can really affect you. That's something that I wasn't prepared for for it to get dark at 4:30 down where we are, let alone, and without being able to turn on electric light. So the further north you go, it lessens your growing season, and also it really affects you, I think, emotionally if you're not prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, technically we're in the South, and I like being in the South. I always thought homesteading, people, modern homesteads, modern day preppers, things like that, they move to Idaho or Montana, different places like that, Wyoming. And I'm just like, yeah, and those are great places. They're really remote. The problem is, man, it's cold up there. And when it snows, and man, the growing season you have up there is very limited. The soil conditions you have up there are very limited, and the rain is limited. It's just, I would love to live in Alaska, and I think part of those places in Canada and Alaska are beautiful, but when you weigh out the pros and cons of it, if you can get down farther south, you're just going to enjoy so much more benefits, better benefits. I mean, the growing seasons and the rain, the water, that comes in.
Yeah.
It's night and day decision. So, snow can be fun. Snow can definitely be fun. Mary Canada Girl says snow can be fun. It's great. We get snow every once in a while. It's fun, but
I just don't. I mean, I think the thing is, for me personally, I think you have to weigh it for you personally. For me personally, living off grid that far up north, I think I would hate life, at least during that time of year, because I really need light. I need light to be able to function. I'm not turning on a light switch during the day. I think it affects you when you don't have enough light.
Mr. Rain says, hey, Zach, we have a 3-day growing season. Wow, that's going to be pretty hard to grow something in a 3-day growing season. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Alaska looks...
He probably means winter. Maybe he means winter. I don't know where they are.
I don't know. Alaska looks like, says, one lost dude says, Alaska looks like it would be beautiful in August. I'm sure it's beautiful in August. It's January and February that I would be worried about. Yeah. Have you heard ticks are supposed to be bad this year? Well, that's another thing. That's one of the reasons we have guinea hens. I tell people, man, first thing you do when you move down here, get guinea hens. Get guineas, get a lot of them. We bought 15 guineas, one of the first things we did here. And we set them loose on the homestead. And man, they cleared out the ticks and the chiggers. And so I'm sure ticks and chiggers will be bad this year.
Well, one of our friends was telling me tonight that she has been finding ticks on her son from where they are. And
already?
And they don't have guineas.
Yeah, they don't have guineas.
We haven't found any ticks yet.
And my kids are out there playing, rolling around in the dirt and stuff.
Yeah, they are.
and they're not getting any ticks because we have guineas, and I mean the chickens too, but really definitely the guineas. It's amazing the work the guineas will do at clearing a land for chicks and chickers. And so that'd be a good video. Maybe we'll do that this week. I got to talk to Tim because Tim has got some of the guineas in with the turkeys. These were the guineas that were kind of being mean and bullying some of the other chickens. And so he grabbed those guineas, he put them in to the turkey coop. And then he has, we have a guinea coop where some of the guineas have been locked in all winter, and he's keeping those and eventually going to let them out to be released on the homestead for the summer or spring to help take care of the tick problem. And hopefully they will go out and they will be a flock amongst themselves and stay away from the chickens. And then we have some other guineas in with the chickens in the chicken coop. And so we have guineas everywhere. You can never, in my opinion, have too many guineas. They're an expendable commodity. Eventually, the predators and things will take their toll on them, and you will lose them. They will go and join other flocks from your neighbors, or they'll go and just wander off and get eaten somewhere, or they'll start to roost up in the trees and get eaten by an owl or a raccoon at night. But they're an expendable commodity, but they're one that's well worth the time and effort and money to clear your homestead of those ticks and chiggers. You have to feed guineas in addition to what they forage for. I don't think he feeds them a lot. He feeds them maybe a little bit. Right now, he feeds them because they're locked up in the ones that are in the guinea coop and locked up all winter. He's been feeding those for sure. But the other ones, and in fact, I think when he feeds the chickens, he puts some feed out. The guineas don't even eat it. they're more interested in the bugs and the insects that they can find. Guineas equal no ticks and less spiders from Silhouette Park Farm. That's absolutely true. We got about a minute left, folks. Let's see. Alaska has 27 different varieties of mosquitoes. They jokingly call it the state bird. Man,
yeah, I've heard that.
I've heard that too. I can't imagine how mosquitoes live up there. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. But
they're supposed to grow really big.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, having a great time. Thanks for coming and tuning in again. If we didn't get to your question, come back next week and we will get to it. Lots of great questions. Maybe we'll do a giveaway next week. Stay tuned. Come back and see us then. All right, guys. See you next time on The Homestead. Lots of great videos coming this week. See ya.